First of all, Gurmagat Concorda, and I welcome the opportunity of speaking on this. A nature fund. The first thing in a nature fund is that at the moment there is a nature restoration law that's been opposed locally for Irish farmers because this hasn't been thought out. And it's a damnable day, and I never thought I'd see the day that I'd be thanking someone in Italy or someone in Poland or even I think it's Turkey, wherever that Orban fella is, that they are actually not supporting the NRL basically being put into gear. And ironically enough, the farming organisations in this country have made it clear what they think about it. But the problem is that they're not being listened to. And I don't mind what the state does with this land. Never did. That's up to the state because they own their land. But for the farming communities that would have basically made small farms viable, we have to be very careful that we keep them going, because they're, no more than in your own area, Concorda, there are small communities that make what we call a mehel of a community together. And we can't have legislation coming in. And like, you can throw money at things. Like, people will say, I often said, I remember people talking about the whole bog situation down through the years. And they'd say to you, sure, Michael, aren't they giving you and offering you money? If money solved every problem, then it's not a problem. That's as simple as that. But there's traditions, there's communities, and what I always say is you could give a nature fund, and in fairness, just talk about it, but it's not the person that gets it. You have to look around the whole room when I look at a community. You have to look and see, well, if that's re-wetted there, I don't have to get up in the morning and be going out and sucking a few calves or counting cattle. So I can live anywhere I want. So the school down the road, then my kids wouldn't have to go to it. The shopkeeper that I'd buy nuts off, or the merchant, or get a drop of diesel or petrol, or we're not gone electric yet, I wouldn't have to be going into them. And what I look at, you can say, I'll give Johnny or Mary or whoever, we'll look after them. And you probably would. But it's the outlying consequences of trying to keep what I would call a rural community going is what we have to make sure of. And, you know, in fairness to the minister that's there at the moment, there's an acre scheme, and you have brought in basically acres too, and I welcome that. And that's a decision for people to do. I would also love if there was a second suckler cow scheme, because unfortunately we're losing them by the week. And in this debate, in my opinion, we need to start balancing it for the simple reason, while carbon, we need to assess as well what carbon that land takes in and barley takes in, and you know, the trees, all the different things. And if you look at, even have a look at what some farmers wanted to do. And I spoke to a farmer the other day that said, Michael, I was going to plant a hectare, but I was told I cannot now. And I says, why? Well, I'll tell you why. Because the new rules from the EU are, that you cannot have a depth of peat more than 30 centimetres or it's over. And this is where we have got to make sure that we do things right. The other thing that needs, and if you want to talk about doing things different for water quality, anaerobic digesters. I would think anaerobic digesters are a very good thing. But the biggest problem is that at the moment there's talk about them being used at silage, and there's talk about them being used at different basically maize or whatever you could put into them. And obviously every city around the country and every large town needs the help of it, for the simple reason the sludge that Irish Water has, you can produce electricity obviously out of it, but it has to go somewhere as well. And even the water treatment plants, when you treat water, there is a certain amount of what we call sludge, and you make that into digestate. But the right hand doesn't know what the left is doing. Minister Ryan is talking about giving, I don't know, is it 3 million or something like that, to entirely do the foundation in one of them. 20 million to build an anaerobic digester. That's it. And that's not a big one. If you want to keep it going, you've got to get a feed-in tariff, like the North done. Maybe not do it the same way as they done it on the heat thing that they were at, but you need to have a 7, 9 or 11 cent, depending on the size of the anaerobic digester, of a feed-in tariff per kilowatt hour. And then you hit the big problem. Now what's the big problem, Mike? And I was talking to the designate chair of Board B this evening, and in every country in Europe, even though you're in the equivalent of Board B, you can spread digestate, which actually will reduce your fertilizer, which actually you can put into gas, or you can create electricity. So you'd imagine that's a fairly good old story to be telling anyone. But in Ireland, even though Teagasc, I've spoke to the people in Teagasc that researches it, don't have a problem. I spoke to the Department of Agriculture, in fairness, they don't have a problem. But Board B has said, just no, couldn't do it. So that little thing is stopping us doing that. So at the moment, we've thankfully got PGI status. And some of this funding would be going into the likes of anaerobic digesters. You know, and if you want to try and bring people with you, I'd be all in favour of if we could have a system that a farmer could, that someone would come and take their slurry, bring it to an anaerobic digester, make be it gas out of it, or make be it electricity, and bring it back in a pellet form. Happy days. Great job. But unfortunately, that isn't happening because the amount of funding put into it isn't, first of all, there, and second of all, we don't seem to have a direction where we're going in all of this. If you went to Germany, that's where you'd learn about the likes of that. And this would be doing good for water quality and for the environment as well. And I would just, you know, we have lovely headings of what we're going to do, but sometimes if we just concentrated on one thing and actually done it and carried it out, I think we'd be an awful lot better off. And I would ask the government to look at where they're putting this funding. And bear in mind what I'm after saying. An anaerobic digester, 20 million. Have a look at what's out in the budget for it. And that will tell you that we're not serious. We talk about it, but we're not serious about doing it. And that, you know, and then, in fairness, in the line of the acres, I want, as I said earlier on, I want to thank the Minister for doing it, for putting out the second one. But I remember being told that the carbon tax was going to be shoved into farming. I think off the top of my head, and I can be open to correction, it's like we get 623 million at the moment a year. Something like 120 million or 123 million is what goes to the agricultural side of it. And that's split up between different things. Where if we're taking it off them, we should give it back to them. I don't actually agree with the carbon tax personally because I think it's a bad tax for ordinary people. But we should be making sure that we reward people. And while there is, I think, 54 or 5,000, which is good, which is about 7,000 or 8,000 more than the last scheme, if we can get 70,000 into it, we should be opening the doors and doing that. If the farmers wants to go into it, we should be encouraging them. And I would be all in favour of, as I've said, if the state wants to do, basically re-wet their own types of land, but then have a look. Have a look at the paper in the last few days, or the news on the television. Quilcha came into us in Ag Committee. They told us that they had 30,000 hectares of forestry on peaty ground that they were going to cut down and they were going to re-wet. And it looked lovely. They were going to be the solution instead of looking at some farmer somewhere. And the first 200 hectares, and I don't know enough about it, and Deputy Connolly might know more than I do because it's to be in their area. When they put in for cutting it, to basically restore it after that, it was refused. So like, does the right hand know what the left is doing? And if that's repetitive around the country, and as I say, I'm not an expert, I don't know all the ins and outs of it, and I'm not saying anything to the council that refuses, they may have very valid reasons, but if that's what's going to go on around the country, like we'll be talking about doing things forever, but we'll never actually end up doing them. And that's my big worry in all of this. And I thank you again, Can Corla, for giving me the opportunity to speak.